All right, so GPT-5 is here, and OpenAI is saying this isn't just another update. They're calling it a revolution. So what's the deal? What can this thing actually do? And maybe the biggest question of all, what happens when this kind of power is in everyone's hands? Let's get into it.
And really, this quote from Sam Altman kind of says it all. He says, with GPT-5, it's like talking to a PhD-level expert in anything whenever you want. I mean, that's not just a smarter assistant. That's a huge, huge claim. So let's unpack that.
So here's the analogy they're using, and I think it's pretty good. Think of it like this. GPT-3, that was your high school student. You know, smart but maybe a little erratic. GPT-4o was like a solid college student, pretty reliable. But GPT-5, they're saying this is the PhD expert in the room. And that's the key, right? It's not just about having more facts. It's about a whole new level of thinking, of reasoning. Okay, so Section 1, a new AI expert. What does that even mean, really? Let's dig in.
So officially, the big idea here is what they call deep reasoning. It's supposed to be built into everything the model does. And not only is it faster and more reliable, but here's the kicker. It's for everyone, even free users. That's a pretty major change in strategy. But this whole expert intelligence thing, it's not just some tech buzzword. It can be incredibly human. Just listen to this story from Carolina Millen. She gets a cancer diagnosis, and she's staring at this biopsy report that's just full of medical jargon. And in that moment of just pure panic and confusion, she uses the AI. And her words, wow. Within seconds, it translated this complex report, and in this moment of overwhelm and panic, had a little bit of clarity. That's what we're talking about. That's the real-world impact.
All right, so it's an expert. But what can it do? Let's talk about the concrete stuff, from writing to coding. Okay, first up, the writing. A lot of people are saying this is where you can really feel the difference. It's not just about spitting out correct information anymore. It's about the human stuff, the nuance, the rhythm of a sentence, that emotional punch.
And they showed this great example at the launch. They asked both the old model and the new one to write a eulogy for the models that came before. GPT-4o, it was okay. You know, it did the job. Kind of felt like it came from a template. But GPT-5's version, it was different. It had a real voice. It talked about how the old models helped millions write first lines, last lines, soften emails, and say things they could not quite say alone. See the difference? It's like going from a spell checker to a genuine writing partner with some soul.
And that creative jump isn't just for writing. It's happening with code, too. And this is where it gets kind of wild. We're not talking about asking for a little piece of code. We're talking about the idea of software on demand. Literally describing an app and having it built for you, from scratch.
And they didn't just talk about it. They did it, live on stage. They built a French learning app, complete with quizzes, an interactive dashboard for a finance chief. They even built a 3D castle game with a little balloon popping thing inside. And these weren't just toy examples. They were real working applications. Built, they said, in just a few minutes. It's kind of nuts. Okay, so you have this super expert AI. How do you actually use it? How do you get the most out of it?
Well, to really tap into that deep reasoning, you got to give it a good prompt. Think of it like you're briefing an actual expert on your team. You tell it, okay, here's your role. Here's what I need you to do. Here's all the background info. And this part is new and really important. You can tell it how to think about the problem before it even starts. That's how you turn it from a generalist into a specialist for your specific task.
And you can see how this works in a real-world scenario. Let's say you want to do market research. You can chain these prompts together. First, you tell it, analyze my competitors. Then, find gaps in the market. Then, what are my customers' biggest pain points? And finally, okay, put all of that into a one-page summary. Suddenly, you've got an automated research team.
And if you're a developer, you get even more control, like knobs you can turn. There's one called reasoning_effort, so you can tell it to think really hard on a tough problem or just give a quick answer for something easy. You can make it talk a lot or be super brief. You can even control its eagerness. Do you want an AI that jumps ahead and makes suggestions, or one that just sits back and waits for your command? It's all about giving builders a ton more say in how the AI behaves.
Okay, let's zoom in on the developers. For them,
This is a really big deal. We're talking a whole new toolkit.
Just look at this chart. It's for something called SWE Bench. And what that does basically is it throws real-world programming problems from GitHub at the AI. Like, hey, go find and fix this bug in this huge, messy project. GPT-5 nails almost 75% of them. That's a huge leap, and it means this is a much more reliable partner for the kind of messy coding that happens in the real world.
And then there's this number, 400,000. What on earth is that?
That's its new memory, its context window. And 400,000 tokens? Well, that's basically like handing the AI a 300-page book and saying, read this. Now, let's talk about it. It can hold the entire thing in its head at once. Imagine what that means for analyzing a huge code base or a massive legal document. It's a game changer.
So, you add all this up, the expert reasoning, the creativity, the powerful new tools. What does this actually change? How does this remake the world?
Well, it's already starting. Big companies are jumping on this. Amgen is using it to speed up drug discovery. The bank BBVA, they're doing financial analysis that used to take weeks, now in a matter of hours. Oscar Health says it's the best thing they've seen for tough medical reasoning. This stuff isn't science fiction. It's happening right now.
And that brings us right back to Carolina and her husband Felipe. Because when they used the new model on that same scary biopsy report, something amazing happened. Felipe said it best. He said it understood the question behind the question. It wasn't just translating words anymore. It got the fear, the context, and it started putting together a whole picture for them. It went from being a tool to a partner.
And that's really the promise here, especially for something like healthcare, right? The point isn't to get rid of doctors. It's to create patients who are more informed, more empowered, who can be a true partner in their own health and advocate for themselves.
So we're back where we started. A PhD-level expert on pretty much anything is now in everyone's pocket. The tech is here. So the real question now is, what are we going to do with it? What problems are we going to solve first?